question came in via text about Odell Beckham Jr. Of course, a Wall Street Journal interview ran today. Now, the interview was done 2 weeks ago, before the NFL and NFLPA reached their agreement on safety protocols. And of course, you'll remember they had that big kind of social media movement where all the players tweeted out about safety protocols. And then lo and behold, an agreement was reached not too long after that. So that's a little strange that this interview came out now, and some comments from OBJ that kind of got everybody's attention are pretty outdated, because it seems like he's all in for this season when, in the interview, maybe it sounded like he might be willing to opt out. But here's the question about that from the 915 area code. It says, this is actually Robert Seltzer. He included his name. It was telling, I think, that OBJ told the Wall Street Journal that he would not mind if the season were canceled. How many Browns do you think share that view, and could you blame them if they did? So I guess if we're kind of looking to take anything out of that, you do wonder. I guess it shows you the players, at least before this agreement was reached, before they got into the facilities and saw how kind of this little bubble was set up in Berea, that there was real concern heading into this about, the league keeping them safe. And you've got to think that's going to be in the back of guys' minds a little bit, even if they do feel safer now that they're seeing these protocols.
Absolutely, 100%. There are plenty of guys on every single team that have some high-risk factors going on, whether it be body mass, asthma, whether it be a family member, whether you have a new baby at home or your wife is pregnant. There are so many reasons that these guys have to be concerned and worried about this. And I don't think that's going to stop the minute they walk into the facility, even though they will find that the Browns are going above and beyond the call of duty in so many ways. We've heard a guy like Chad Thomas on social media say, this is really scary and I'm in a high risk group. Who knows? We don't have the precise date for opt out yet, the deadline. But between now and that time, which could be next week, between now and then, a few more Browns could decide that they want to opt out. Right now, it's only Drew Forbes and Drake Dorbick that have done so. But I have Chad Thomas in the back of my mind. And as you guys know, on the pod last week, I said I thought maybe Odell would opt out. Yep. I just kept having a feeling. Everything that I heard him say, even whether it was on the roundtable with Cam and Todd Gurley, he just sounded like he was having trepidation about playing the season. I think he's fine now. But again, there is a deadline looming out there.
Yeah, the other part of his question, I don't know anybody would hold it against any of the players for opting out. I mean, it's obviously they're right, and they're going into a situation where nobody really knows what's going to happen. We've seen the issues that baseball has had by not being in a bubble, and that's a very non-contact sport. I agree with Mary Kay. I think we're going to see more people. If you've been in this league for a handful of years and you've made some decent money, and maybe that would appeal to you. If you have a wife, you have children at home, why not? Just sit this one out and kind of reboot and be ready for 2021 and hope it's a better situation.
And real quick, this is just a matter of bookkeeping, but there's been a lot of misinformation on the money that they get and what they have to pay back and who doesn't have to do this or that. So in its simplest form, if you opt out for a high-risk medical reason, you get $350,000. You don't have to pay that back. If you are a voluntary opt-out, you get $150,000, and that comes off of your salary next year. If you don't play next year, well, then I actually think you do have to pay that back. But so it's a little different between those two categories of players.
Yeah, it's a really complicated situation. I do think the one thing, with everything that's happened in baseball, I'm sure that there are coaches and general managers and even veteran players on teams saying, look, this is what happens if when you leave the facility, you don't do the things you're supposed to do. It's going to be really hard to kind of keep everybody healthy, everybody safe, keep the virus out of the building. If when you leave the building where they've created sort of this bubble, as Kevin Stefanski called it, and it does look a lot like a bubble with everything they've put in, but if you aren't responsible and don't take care of what you're supposed to take care of, you really could torpedo this whole thing.